Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum.
So we'll begin with the opening prayers, and Drupama says we can just go through the English and we'll just recite each section once. So beginning on page 1. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. And on page 2, thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Page 3. All mothers, all sentient beings, limitless is the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and 3 times, source of 84,000 categories and the teaching and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Page 4. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Page 5. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. And on page 6.
Benzara Samanza, Benzara Samanza, Benzara Samanza.
Refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Maras together with their hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities without exception exactly as they are, transcendent conqueror together with your disciples, please come here to this place.
Orgam Bading Duge Duge Alo Gen 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 Nivete Sada Padisa.
Page 7. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. And on page 11, Namo. To the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence, I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the 3 realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling gem, a crown ornament to the inconceivable and expressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the 5 wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love, precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Dharmakaya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind. Transcend and conquer the one thus gone, foe destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men. I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Chakra King. At the time of your birth, leader of 2-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth, you proclaimed, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, even then, I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain. The one whose renown is evident throughout the 3 worlds, protector of supreme attainment, to you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you the one with a complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one such as you among the 3 levels of existence is most exquisite. Unparalleled, omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace. To that one, the one who dwelled at Shravasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone. The pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, the altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Having been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the 3 higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha, I also prostrate. Then on page 15, I prostrate to the youthful Manjushri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times. To all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration prayer for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom, there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dharma Dhatu completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas. With the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense, I make offerings to the victorious ones. With the finest cloths, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways, I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the Bodhisattvas, the Pratyeka Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who passing through the stages of awakening, attained Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together, those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. And then on page 16, we'll do this one once in English and once in Tibetan. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma, of the two vehicles and their combination, according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Good morning. Kita kacang kacau majarsi lawan tinima towari tindu tine tak kita kacang ta pecahnya nanti kare coba jual ta tine zaman tam jawa ti Cina ta tine ta nipa karsana tambo nipa ta karsana jawa ta hyungtong money tela kacang ta tongna barzong yola imba tine parti jawa hyungtela is tomar jawa di parti jawa hyung tamar jawa jok tongsia somyo latino
So we began with these instructions on the 37 Bodhisattva practices last weekend, and we'll pick up where we left off today. So where we ended last weekend was that we went through the introduction. So as Drupala mentioned, the text is divided into three categories of virtue. So it's virtuous in the beginning with the introduction, it's virtuous in the middle with the main body or the main composition of the text, and it's virtuous in the end with the conclusion. So with the first section, which is the virtue of the introduction, we have the two sections, which are the homage, the traditional homage, and or prostration, sometimes it's called, and the commitment to complete, or the commitment with regard to the composition of the text. So we went through those two already, and then now we enter into the second section of virtue, which is that it is virtuous in the middle with the main body of the text.
Deja corona calados huvina tene tenjo chucheniga tubdunder rajan kurven sole darjicher ni dan center irba me baye nyamsam gomba jerserawis.
So what it says with the first verse is, at this time, when the difficult to gain ship of leisure and fortune has been obtained, ceaselessly hearing, pondering, and meditating day and night, in order to liberate oneself and others from the ocean of cyclic existence, is the Bodhisattva's practice.
다 되는데 지당에 다 참된 것이요. 그 자와 세나리 자위에 기체 강나 지 탐보고는 저 몽보지 야위나 그 자위에 책이 가리인 바다요. 제가 가리인 바텐데 그 학과 디스칼레 가보도 뒤에 탐보거나 자위에 책 리레이션다 지당 지 인치나 디 laptop 비스테오여 서마리나 법에 나온다 배 laptop 데오레 이나트네 지 인치 말이다 책 자위에 책 리레이션 책진도 오치지네 아 당당도 진짜 근데 디슈라 책 리레이션도 근데 많이 희진 슈이스
So we have, when it comes to commentaries, traditional commentaries on different scriptures or works, religious works, then there are sort of different styles for this. And sometimes there's like the word for word commentary in which the content of the root text is actually broken up. So you have each word of the root text in sort of, for instance, in this case, like one verse, which is then sort of elaborated upon in with the commentary of the one who is composing the commentary, but sometimes then it becomes a little bit difficult to understand, what is the root text and what is actually the commentary, and then
that's why we say
that's why what?
So that's why 탐보 책 리레이션 그 책책 대칼라 뭐레스 테세나 카레 조스나 카레 책레지 자리 책 코로나 탄다 카레 도지 등 short instruction 도지 등 디디엘라 등
Oh, okay.
디디엘 도지
So for that reason, actually, what Dhruvan will do is he first, he'll give kind of an overview of the meaning of the root text, like the verse and the root text itself, and then he'll go into it in greater detail, actually explaining, kind of the meaning connected with each of the individual words, and so, maybe he's not sure how it turns out in English, but it works well in Tibetan.
Right.
Yeah.
So 뒤에 다 탐보로 있는 Tibetan name 대세야지 이거래. 대세야지.
So actually, I have the Tibetan too. That would be good. This one doesn't have it, but that's okay.
그래서天조라고 대세야지 이거래.
So the first word then so we've read through the verse. So the first word in the verse is the word dil, which is referring to deljor, which are the leisures and endowments. So okay. First it's referring to the leisures.
보다 대세야들라 저 대화기 토비오래 세야디 통다래.
And what that word
is more easier. Then it is Shulan Joro Seyagiwa. The Latin and Jura Chu Seyaji. Tomba Bengo is the Tomala Wumaran to Yabua. Okay.
So the first word, which is leisures, is referring to the 8 leisures. And then the next word, which is endowments, is referring to the 10 endowments within the 18 leisures and endowments.
Then the Chuchenzi Tangachi, Trusenan, Benochi, Hagotako, Bedi, example of the Turi Turwa, Turi is the Mustaji. Yamzo Ocean of Tongo, Trujik Boro, that he bent of the trees. In a Tondadi, Casinata, Milkuli is
and so then the next word is the great ship. So the great ship or boat, and what this is referring to is that So for instance, in order to attain liberation, or in order to cross, when we give this example of like crossing a great ocean or a great body of water, then we need a vessel such as a ship or a boat with which to travel across a great body of water, to travel to the other shore. And so that is what is actually the meaning of this example, is that our human body, our human form, or our body in this life is the ship. This is the boat that provides us with an opportunity to travel across the great body of water to the other side, or to travel beyond the ocean of samsara.
That 인식은 간이라고 힘하더니 들라보다 니가 투드네스 다 텐조 출신이가 근데 니발 카보레스 so 니발 지다가서 뒤배요 니발은 지다가서 딜링으로와 근데 배고는 무료데 토비아 간리고 주의고는 무료데 토비아 간리고 근데 장아지고는 무료데 토비아 갈래 간리고 같은데 이거 is 니가와 세팅이다 텐데.
And so then it says, essentially what is being said when it says, at this time when the difficult to gain ship of leisure and fortune has been attained. So this
So I think
this phrase where it says, this time where we have found that which is difficult to find, which is referring to the human body, the ship of leisure and fortune. And so then there are traditionally, when explaining the leisures and endowments, the 18 leisures and endowments, or the precious human birth with leisures and endowments, when explaining how difficult it is to obtain such a state, then there are traditionally the three ways that this is expressed. So it is expressed through the examples, it's expressed through causes, with regard to the causes, and it's expressed with regard to the numbers.
I also said all the corresponding to the English here. So
right, I said okay.
Yeah, that's course what we're talking about. Yeah, okay.
Yes, in that
okay. Then da yes da wa da hen ji da ra ri hen ri then da then kurwa ji da kurwa de la yan so pe sha yan so le yan so lo da de cho pe sha yo wa then da pe de kurwa de ji so no ji wa da so de es pe then da kurwa le da nga so ti da de ni ki de da hen yin ja la de ne 지금 코로바리 다르비 챗틀라스다 드니 지금 박 염소를 통고고요나 다 된 조지 라사요와 드니 톱고고요나스 톱치드 노잖아.
And so it is in order to free oneself from the ocean, oneself and others, from the ocean of samsara. Then it is that our body has become like a boat, which will ferry ourselves together with others across this great ocean of samsara. And so this is the ocean is referring to samsara. So that is what is referred to when it says from the ocean of cyclic existence, which will liberate oneself and others from the ocean of cyclic existence. And so in order to become free of samsara, we have gotten a hold of this great boat, this boat or this ship that makes it possible to traverse that vast ocean.
Dedication you want to some and what Paris. Tin Tombo Yes, Yatanga so Tambi Chuji Matuala, Tanga to Kajuhaku Marwa, Tombo, Togo is teaching the Google. That teaching the two Savihula, what the Tibun degree is not to your money. The same novel, somebody that Nihiji or that Risha somebody. Risha San, Tenita Tigila, Om Levita, Lalata, or Timothy, Niesem, Bomba, Tati, Niesem Tenita, Niembari, some town, Bombina, Tinitanda, correct, so it in the part of this.
And so also I'll just say the reason why actually Dhruvan Rinpoche is going through this word for word in order in the Tibetan, but because the structure of Tibetan is completely different from English, it gets mixed up. So some things actually come before, you know, so in any case, it is in order when we explain it in the English, because and that's for that reason. So then the next words in the Tibetan are day and night, to therefore hearing, ceaselessly hearing, pondering, and meditating day and night is what comes next in the Tibetan. And so this is, you know, the crucial practices, or the crucial aspects of Dharma practice are these three: hearing, study, or pondering, or contemplating, and meditating. Within, if one doesn't experience or engage in the practice of hearing, then there is no initial place from which to develop understanding. So we really need to engage extensively in the practice of hearing or listening. Sometimes some people translate this term as study, but the word itself in Tibetan actually means to hear, to listen. So it's essentially referring to listening to the instructions, listening to the Dharma teachings. And then from that, then of course leaving it at hearing alone is also not okay. So from that, then we also have to really, you know, develop a kind of deeper level of understanding or identification through, you know, our own sort of direct experience. And so, you know, with it thinking, first we hear the instructions, and then we have sort of a deeper experience of understanding this, like, oh wow, that's really true. And so that comes about through the second practice, which is pondering or contemplating. And then of course, to really actualize liberation, to actually experience the fruition or the result, then one has to engage in meditation. There has to be meditation too. And so in order to really become liberated from the ocean of suffering, the ocean of samsara, then these three of study or hearing, pondering, and meditation, day and night, you know, at all times, is what is necessary in order to actually manifest liberation, to actually reach the state of liberation.
One by one, Tina Yang, that the Inchigan go Yuk Nombolo, Tinichi, or Kandu in the Kanji, that he could. This Lila with some segregation, Cato Caton, this Lila with some Maris, in Tajitanko, do you know what you say? Singden or taking the one out is.
So this is an example of going through the text, each section of the text word for word. So it might be a little bit kind of cumbersome. Maybe in English it's not as so effective. But then there's the other style of also sort of explaining more sort of sentence by sentence, or sort of in chunks. So
right, so these are like very hard, you know, English and Tibet. So this Tibetan has each word, you know, specific, you know, one word is so they're explaining, you know, easy. Also, this we translated the Tibet translated in English. So there's just what called these rewards, so not really, not like same style in the Tibet language, so probably, I don't know, difficult to correspond, right? Corresponding.
Oh yeah, maybe that works. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so now that this means.
So then going through it word for word, then he'll give a more sort of overall. Right. Yeah. So having gone through it word for word, then he'll give also kind of a more general explanation of kind of a larger section of the text.
진짜 당가서 되나 대졸 집지세야 되다 단anga 주 운도지도 당보 로도 넘버 히키나네 당보지 차디요 되게 지랑서 제지도 제지나다네 지야 신규유지레스 대히데냐 솔라양 고 챙그 연구요레스.
So then, with regard to this first verse, what is contained within this then is the first of the four thoughts that turn the mind, which is the difficulty of obtaining a human rebirth, a precious human rebirth with the leisures and endowments. So then within that is contained, the understanding of the 18 leisures and endowments. So we all are familiar with this. We probably all know already what the 18 leisures and endowments are. So, when we practice the Ngundro or preliminaries, the very first step is to contemplate the four thoughts that turn the mind. And the first of these four thoughts then is contemplating the difficulty of achieving a precious human rebirth with the 18 leisures and endowments. So as all of you have no doubt done that section of the preliminary or Ngundro practices, then you're definitely probably all more than familiar with them.
General kalagos ng gaso jita nasu glus tenjor lus na mu lu de rang lu de pe za chimbo jita zede yore za chimbo zeyore za chimbo ziba zo ma zi be ke de chapa ta hienba da kyo chimbo yore wa ti du ta ti de ha ko bu yore ni chapa hienbe ke tsabla ti tenjor mu lu de wo za chimbo yinba da ni ka bo yinba da tiga na yi ke tenjor mu lu de ke ko da ji mo ne ji lu de le de ne when it did there were two yaki or indigenous thing is somebody was that on Luzachimo but cheap koji chapa cheta or matovi chonta gani or maritina young koji tenjote young traveling also ji tenjotachimo but candidate used Zachimo candidate Moumbala Tileloji Kesi Tanda use Yabumajin Moumbala Tupsa Mari Samba Take Uncle Langan to Sari. Moumbala, Tanati, Tenjon de Bay, Sachimbo, the Peju Majivina, Moumbala, and then to be a couple of the cowboy. Thank you. Yes.
So what this is expressing then is that generally, so when we to emphasize our understanding of just how rare and precious our human birth is, this human form in which we have the leisures and endowments, this isn't to increase our attachment to the body. We already actually have really strong attachment to our body, to our physical form. In fact, really, there is nothing that we probably have greater attachment to in this life. But what the reflection upon, or this contemplating how precious the human body with leisures and endowments is meant to really emphasize the rarity of it, just how rare and difficult it is to have such a situation. And so, and it is also, not only is it rare, but it is so precious because it is through this circumstance that we have the support, we have the ability to actually, reach the state of unchanging happiness, unchanging contentment. And so therefore, it is really through this contemplation, we really develop a sense of just how precious the human form is, a precious human birth, that is. And so when that understanding is there, it doesn't make us more attached, but it actually makes us just mindful or aware of the need to really put the opportunity to good use. Because if we don't use this human body well, while we have it, while we have the chance, then the likelihood of having such an auspicious circumstance again in the future is not, it's very unlikely. So we likely will not have such an occasion again if we don't utilize the situation that we currently have most effectively. And so if we let this opportunity go to waste, if we don't use our leisures and endowments well, then in the future, it will be difficult to achieve such auspicious circumstances again.
다 디나 다 단기라 대화세야 요와 대화들라 맞다 대화 지세야다 메콤비 네 지리데 타네 들레티네 대화지 슬라부요레스.
And so then of the 18 leisures and endowments, the first we have the eight leisures, or sometimes they're also referred to as the 8 freedoms. And what these 8 leisures or freedoms are is they are the freedom of not having been born in any of the 8 inopportune states.
And
so then these 8 are, not having been born in the hell realms, not having been born in the realms of hungry ghosts, not having been born as an animal, not having been born as a long life god, not having been born in uncivilized lands or as a kind of like in a barbaric kind of society, not having been born with incomplete faculties, not having wrong views, and not having been born in a time where no Buddha has appeared.
대화지 세야 들어왔다. 메콤비키니 칼라부요레 세나 다 단다지 메콤비키니 지리 타네. 되네. 단다 고지. 대화 자친 거지. 톱디요로. 지탕가도 다 선노당고 그래. 대송로와. 지탕가도 무 지탕가도 조베케지. 제와래야다. 조베치야데 tene yang nga so number here ba de ta jitang da di yasilang le show le ma thong yung gre tien de jitang nga so yang ma nga so zongbo no is no mo do wina tene nga so jing dong hang da na de gro to ko him ba jil de ha sa ni sa je pa him ba jil de tene dong hang sha sha gro o tene yung yo spin number here ba de ko lu him ba jil le ha lu him ba jil de na yin nga so de zong le jo wei jian ji ha la da zong zong de na yo le 로이젠지 칼라다단 성급리 근데 진가 좀 바콩으로 마스크 소텐다 대체도 되게 되는 디즈니 월드 솔라니 프라이즈 프라이즈 근데 그 칼콩 그리지 통콩으로
The prize, you mean? Prize?
노노 프라이즈 그 방으로 되게 지금 무슨 방으로 콩으로 wearing the mask
parade.
야 텐다오지 근데 지금 이나 코트 말아 이렇게 뭐라리 이나 양 코트 넘버 히바 직발이 코트다 막 snow whatever this turban or wind or any bar or the congress 이나 공사는 고차리 되니까 나서 단다디 맞좀 봐 그래서 precious kumela bar con디어와 아침 보리스 희망을 받기지나 맞어요 단다디 담배 주려고 말하기나 그냥 나서지 가서 그래 친다고 네 힘내다고 네 집 돈도 나고 되게 공부 공세스
And so generally then these 8 freedoms or 8 leisures are the freedoms or the leisures of not having been born into a situation where there's lack of opportunity in any of these 8 inopportune states. And so it's important to really recognize how profound and precious leisure is. This kind of leisure is really extraordinary. And, you know, if we, you know, there's no telling, you know, when that kind of leisure could arise again, because as the consciousness travels, you know, from lifetime to lifetime in cyclic existence, it's really just a temporary, we take up sort of like temporary dwelling places of different bodies or different forms. And there's a lot of turnover. It's kind of like, actually, it's just like it says in fact, the 37 Bodhisattva practices itself, it refers to the guest house of the body, you know, when we'll have to leave behind the guest house of the body. And so it's just like, you know, a traveler who wanders, you know, from village to village and stays temporarily in different, you know, inns or guest houses. And then when it's time to move on, they move, you know, to the next place. And so that's how it is with our own experience in cyclic existence. It's really our temporary body, our temporary form is like a mask, kind of. It's just a place in which the consciousness resides for a short period and then moves on. Like at Disney World, when they have parades and different people, you know, and the participants of the parade are wearing different masks, and some people have a lion mask, and some people have a monkey mask, and some people have a cat mask, and so forth. And then, but really, like that's just a mask, and you know that they're sort of temporarily wearing. They're temporarily behind this mask, and so this precious human birth, or this form, this body that we currently have, is like a temporary mask that we are wearing. And it could be that in our next life where we are a cat, you know, or a dog, or that wearing some other mask that we will sort of temporarily, you know, take up sort of a dwelling space in for a time.
이나야 단단한 것 같으나 precious human being mask on the others. Ale hotel da ti ina da teje ngaso maung ba choose chi to yake jumzen tel dene tewaji to de atres.
But so currently we're wearing the mask of a precious human life. And so because we have these 18 leisures and endowments, this is actually equipping us with the possibility to choose, to actually sort of determine or influence where we might take up residence next, which is why it's so important to utilize this opportunity wisely.
다 드네 텐ጆ 단 저와 쥐요 봐. 저와 쥐대 드네 다 지당 티노나 양 랑조나 신조나 세야지 거래. 다 신조나데 드네 상지 총초 송 엠바네 기 제일جو 니 신년가 제와 오스트. 그처럼 드네 지고요나 이 참표리 기능이 좀 요구해서.
Oh, okay. So then we have of the 18 leisures and endowments, then there are the 10 endowments, or sometimes these are also translated as the advantages, the 10 advantages. So these 10 are divided into 5 and 5. It's the 5 advantages or endowments that are dependent upon outer circumstances, and the 5 advantages or endowments that are dependent upon one's own conditions or one's own circumstances. So there are so the 10 or the 5 circumstantial advantages that are dependent upon the outer circumstances are having been born in a time period in which the Buddha has come or has appeared, having and the Buddha having appeared, then he has also taught the Dharma, and not only has he taught the Dharma, but his teachings have survived. They continue to exist in this present time, and not only that, but there are also followers of his teachings. There is a community of practitioners, people who continue to practice the Buddha Dharma. And then 5th, that there are favorable conditions for Dharma practice. And sometimes specifically, this is also said or translated as being that they're essentially spiritual teachers who have compassion, who are able and willing to guide beings.
So we are back to the 8 leisures. You know, so kita wrong view say di doa. Wrong view say ade zo khalab view is nanga so kita ra yi ke ta naturally wa cardios na karma cause effect. Oh ti ji yung view re. Ti ni tele tene lende la lopada wa ji tene ji lende tele tene ji yi ma che wa ra yi khande yung wa kita ma che wa. Here na yi ke ta ji kwon cho la yi ma che wa so ta kwon cho te ka so lopada wa so tene ji mo ne sang ji ke la yi che me wa da de ga na yi sang ji song xiao ra yi ki da sang ji ko ra yi to de wa de la ao xiao wa de ji ke ma le se ya ko ta tene ji chi wa de la so ta no cha de este lo ta ka ni na de sa.
So going back for a moment to the eight leisures, so there's the leisure of wrong view. The leisure of not having wrong view. So then what is a wrong view? So wrong view is really most often explained as being a lack of confidence or belief in the law of karma, cause and effect, not understanding or accepting that karma, cause and effect is a natural law, and so that having wrong view with regard to karma, and then also there is wrong view with respect to the 3 jewels, and then specifically this means not really believing in the wisdom of the Buddha. Not believing that the Buddha realized the way things actually are, or the true nature of reality. And so this then is wrong view with respect to the 3 jewels.
다 전에다 배제 신경을 전에다 상제 계산 가서디 단대내 감로 있는데 즉 단다 상지 시작제 도바양 중요의 상지 주 소문에다 그 단다 파르지 최장 상대와지 리디오로와 이는 양다 든리데 가두이는 리디오 삼아와 상지 가서지 양제와 단기 공티와 나이를 가서 봐 힘바지 공네 제와 힘바지 렘베까라 상지 마중베까 추모소베까 오다 든리 용기여사리 테이는 가서지다 몸에게 지글레타 소남 텔리자샤비 김센텔레 때네 다 단나양 고지 단다다 현정아 세야데 토비오리스
And so these 5 endowments that are based on external circumstances are also really extraordinary circumstances to have entered into. Because again, going back to this sort of example of temporarily wearing a certain mask. So, now we have the mask of actually being born in a time or having this situation in which all of these things are true. All of these things are present in our experience, these 5 circumstantial situations, the Buddha has appeared and so forth. But it's very, it's entirely possible and quite likely that at any time we could be, take up a different mask. And while we're inhabiting that mask, that could be a mask through which, these truths are not present. So we're, to be inhabiting a time in which there hasn't been any Buddha that has appeared. In which there hasn't been any dharma that has been spoken or that exists in that land, and so really to have these 5 circumstantial conditions really is due to former karma, former merit, the accumulation of great amounts of merit in former lives, and so it just so happens that we are presently experiencing the ripening of that fortunate karma.
어다 대인도 되래. 근데 디 쇼라 다 랑조nga 좀 랑란 주르티네. 단기 공도 휴리 매니 의지 방법 전에다 말로네 여러와. 송바레스.
And so then there are the five endowments or advantages which are dependent upon oneself or one's own conditions. So that is then being a human being. So having been born as a human, having been born in a central land, having all of our faculties intact, having a lifestyle that is not harmful or not having accumulated any of the kind of really extraordinarily heavy karmic, negative karmic causes, such as the 5 heinous crimes, and having faith, being endowed with a sense of confidence or trust in the 3 jewels and the Buddha Dharma.
mini uji ombo chanlen tamalo ne tebayo yorwa teba. Tini ta jitang nga teri ta tangi mini se da la gumdo tini leje tamalo sunya ta jitang nga ji chen de yang de ba xiu qian bu lo qi yu na tini ji ra pa na cha xia de ji rang pa ma se ya la so qi yu na tini ji chen de la sang ji ya di ska le ka bo ro wa wo de leje tamalo se la bu yori te ga na ji da nga so u ji la de jitang u st la ni lo ji xia yu sa de da u de sa che u dong chu che u se ya ji tini da chu che u se ya de na nga so da ja do ji de na ko da sang ji se ke da ne te ga na ji ke da ji be be sang ji yang te la sang ji wa dang mo mo be sang ji de so la yang te la sang ji ge re so mo ro wa te cha de yo de chu che u se ya de 他那个做卡哇吉 주념의 지야 거갑요와 들라기는 주제 그 자리에서
so then
자리죠.
So then this endowment or advantage of not having a lifestyle or that is really harmful or not having really engaged in karmically heavy negative deeds. This is for instance, if there in this life one had really done some very heavy negative karmic deeds, such as killing one's own mother or father, then it would be very likely, very unlikely, or near, impossible, really, to reach Buddhahood in this life, or to reach the state of Buddhahood, then there's a great obstacle to that. And so then to have been born in a central land is actually, there are two ways of understanding what is meant by a central land. There's a sort of the literal meaning, and then there's kind of the central land in relation to Dharma. So the literal, according to the Dharma, or in sort of like a Buddha Dharma context, geographic, that's better than literal. So there's the geographic central land. So the geographic central land then is referring to Bodh Gaya. So it is the place in which it is said that all of the Buddhas reach the state of awakening or attain enlightenment. All of the Buddhas of the past have attained enlightenment at the holy place of Bodh Gaya, and our present Buddha Shakyamuni attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya, and all of the Buddhas of the future it is said that they will also attain enlightenment at the holy place of Bodh Gaya. And then there's a central land, the definition of a central land.
Geographic art corona center is Taboyos and Kidi or Ella Budawati, which is Mobalati, so Carvan, Kale Kale, Jik making Jikwa, Chukin Jikwa, Jikwa, Kale Kale, Meva Chabita, Meva Chabika, center of this degrees.
So the other reason why it is referred to as a central land geographically is because it is said that Bodh Gaya itself is like a particularly sort of solid geographical region, and that when at the end of a kalpa, when the universe goes through stages of destruction through fire, destruction through wind, or it's destruction through water, etc., then it is said that Bodh Gaya is kind of like the last sort of solid place that is remaining intact, like at least on the earth. And so it sort of stays a little bit longer until that too is sort of consumed by the elemental destruction. And then the central region or central land with regard to Dharma. Why? So actually it is said that Bodh Gaya will remain sort of like a bucket, like a bucket hanging in the air, that it sort of remains protected when everything else becomes sort of dissolved and destructed or destroyed by these elemental forces, that Bodh Gaya sort of remains for a time before it too is consumed. And then
before comes
no, Jigamare. Oh, okay. No, it doesn't become destroyed at all. I'm sorry. It remains. Okay. Yeah. And so, so then the the next thing is the central land with regard to the Dharma. So what this means is that regardless of where one might take birth geographically, when one is when one wherever it is that one is born, where if the Dharma teachings are accessible, if the Dharma exists in that region, then and therefore it becomes possible to come into contact with the Dharma and to practice the Dharma, then that is also what is referred to as a central region.
Story to your Rinpoche, Luru Rinpoche, Yori, that Lasoa Karajamna, Chamang, drop to the Sungro, that buried it. Tenagi, King George Mulu, Rinpoche, and that had become you and Pechuchini, and Yidan said to Eva Mewa, attending Yamlachi, nothing, Bondo, to Martin, and to Malitrova, Yana, and Tawata, top to. Yes, what I think the any military Zachimboys. Military Zachimbo, the candy tended to be Chasa taught the Mato, Muli Imba Zamji, then Jig Rambochi, a young Muli Imba Zamji, a Jig Carsebore. I think your Juji, yes.
So in any case, it is really because of these 18 leisures and endowments, the 8 leisures and the 10 endowments, that we refer to it as a precious human birth. That's what really qualifies this human existence as being precious. And so if all of those 18 leisures and endowments are present, then it really is an extraordinarily precious circumstance or situation in which one really is sort of through that understanding of just how rare and precious it is, then one is moved to put every effort possible into making good use of this precious circumstance. And so that is why it is said, engaging in these activities of ceaselessly hearing, pondering, and meditating day and night. So always, at all times, putting one's efforts toward making good use of this precious human birth in order to create the causes to gain liberation, in order to become free from suffering or samsara, is that should be the result of really understanding the preciousness of or the rarity of a precious human birth with the 18 leisures and endowments. So it's really the 18 leisures and endowments that qualify the human birth as precious. If one is born as a human being, but the 18 leisures and endowments are not necessarily present, then it isn't necessarily a precious human birth. So it's the leisures and endowments which make it precious. It's like a precious jewel. Yishin Norbula Gograve.
The Northern Butchis, the Sora Cardam, rock to Grace, that came in the Tine, or that Terry, Jatan, Tin George Mulu, Toba Zambi, Buchi Chavio Madela, Tin George Mulu, Toba Zambi, Tine, go Zachimbuji, Chavio Marji, 2 million gorgeous on Koran, Gord Sulusum Yorisena, Jatan Chirango Boduki, Nata, Momadako, Jerida Korabenia, mentioning Charwa in Atene, or Karzum Yosinatne, Jermilu, Tinjor Mulu, Onzum is, Tinjor Mulu to the Cowboys, in a Choranda Wada, Tinija Pomo Maris, Tigana, Tinjor Mulu, the Zachimboris, in a Choranke, Miluta Zachin Maris, so Carchivio Lanatane, or Dano, Zilevi or Daron Zilevi, go teach Pinjo Mulu than the late in a go, Mikewajan, drop Devi, John Maris, John did the Kachable Maris on what you do. Mulu than the Peju Majimina, Jim Mulu than the go Hollywood and Sachin Childers and this.
So actually, to go even further, it's not even necessarily just having the leisures and endowments that makes the human life precious, but it actually is utilizing the leisures and endowments in a meaningful and wise way that really makes the human life precious. So this is exemplified, for instance, by the song that Jitsun Miller Rebbe sang to the hunter, in which he said, generally they say, that the human body is so difficult to obtain. A human body with leisures and endowments is so rare and difficult to obtain. And therefore it is precious. However, a body like yours is not precious at all. And the reason for this is because the hunter used his human form to harm beings, to kill animals, wild animals. And so therefore, when the human body is utilized in such a way that it becomes a vessel for accumulating a lot of negativity or heavy negativities, then it is not rendered precious at all. And so that is really what is meant by precious, is when the leisures and endowments, when this present human physical form is put to really good and meaningful use.
So the Milarepa song to the hunter, but he's saying first that way, but later on he's really become or higher practitioner, or he basically is enlightenment. So the story is, so then I think Milarepa and hunter could back forth, on songs and the kind of discussions. Then the hunter think, okay, that's really important to practice, Dharma practice. So then the hunter said, okay, now I'm willing to, or retreat, I want to practice. So then the hunter said to Milarepa, okay, anyway, so I want to practice, but I could go to my home. I want to talk to my wife. And also I want to prepare other food. So then come back. So then Milarepa said, you really want to practice Dharma? So he said, yes, okay. If you really want to Dharma practice, so you no need to go to home, you no need to go ask your wife, and you no need to prepare food. Just practice now. So there he did. So later on, he's
So he actually became, one of his closest disciples, who with very high and reached very high levels of realization.
Okay. That did that enjoy Milu, enjoy much Milu days on that hanging out today. Nibar Kabore, Sonwa, enjoy Milu de telling us that hanging on to one. Pay for the Nibar Kabo, was on that bed. The Jackie also some Hingi, telling us a page in your day. In the lap can direct the name of the Terawa. Jansok Nalatini, Yahin Hugaji Paji, Yoris. Tina Latini, all Jube, Lomaji Yoris, Logia Tambe Namaya, Timare Chukala Tongris. In a that teaching, Yahin Hugala, that's your Pekaboroa. What now Yaki, we could do that to be a famous Kabore.
So then to illustrate how rare and difficult it is, in fact, to obtain a precious human rebirth with all of the leisures and endowments intact, there are the three ways that this is illustrated: through example, through causes, and through numbers. And so the first is the example, which clearly you all are probably more than familiar with at this point, which is the famous example of a blind turtle at the bottom of an ocean. And the example that is given is that, say there were a wooden yoke that were floating about atop of the surface of the ocean. And this wooden yoke had, sort of like an inner tube. We could call it a wooden inner tube with a hole in the middle. And it was sort of blowing about, by the wind in every which direction. And at the bottom of the ocean, there is a blind turtle. And this turtle only surfaces once every 100 years. So say upon the surfacing of that blind turtle, were the turtle to, stick his head out of the surface of the ocean at just the right time, when his neck would be put through the center of that wooden inner tube or that wooden yoke, then how unlikely, how rare is it that would actually occur? What is the likelihood of the turtle actually, getting to stick his head through the middle of that wooden yoke? It's very unlikely. So it is said that the likelihood of achieving a precious human birth with the leisures and endowments is just as rare as this.
我的题变了드네 다트 배 장송다 장계계 유네 송발가 나서 제당 아니야와라 몽보요와 예다라 몽보요와 텐디 라부요리 이내야다 조응아서 튼로송데 튼로당 머니 도리나 빼메시다 거기 람바지야 요마이다 나서 지 단다다 배네 나서 플로리다 나오는다 10 by 10 페이지 yamen 100 feet by 100 feet da Zambaling population ke jingone midno samotambina tene tanaga 100 feet by 100 feet ko ends no da box no mayorwa wata ti peno tene tene tindi nane ngaso lambar mombo tindi je kinana ngaso tejom toya de teveja pale kapores.
So then following the method of contemplation through examples or metaphors, then there is also the way to contemplate with regard to the numbers. And so, we can contemplate how many, even just thinking about mere numbers of human beings on this planet, and then comparing that, for instance, with the number of hell beings or hungry ghosts. And maybe these are not such easy examples to relate to because we don't have any direct experience of, or we can't see, how the numbers of hell beings or hungry ghosts, but we can see animals, those beings that exist in the animal realm. So even if you merely compare the number of human beings living on this earth to the number of other creatures, if you take, for instance, especially in a sort of warm subtropical environment like this here in Florida, if you take a plot of land, like a 10 by 10 plot of land, or even like a 100 by 100 plot of land, and you count or examine the number of creatures and insects and ants and so forth, living in that 100 by 100 plot of land, and then compare that to the population of people or human beings on this earth, the animals, the non-human beings, the creatures far outnumber the number of human beings. So that alone really gives us a sense of how unlikely or how rare it is to actually be a human being.
다 자체보다 주송이다. 주티 정도 계가 저다 제와 뭐마 제와 참해봐. tenela nga zo choson no za yo le jetang de song le de song do wa ji xian de wei ne ji ge chutem song zo chutem song de ji mi ge wa ju ji song ba ne ge wa ju do ba la so be de xie chutem na ba da be xie song mo zo de ga na yi ke ji ngo ne ji so par ji zhou chuo ji de jin ba da chutem so ba la so ba de ji de ge ji sim jian xian ba le pan to de wa de ta ma yang de ji Molang number tab in some years, some utility, Ranchi Buchi, Mayumba, Egewa Drop, when the simply about or zombie. Candidiata, Chachando with the Tani, that engagement top is.
So then there are the causes. So the causes also include, mainly having accumulated a great deal of merit and virtue in former lives. So through many of our countless lives, to have really upheld pure ethical discipline, to have been really pure in the integrity of our ethics, to have avoided, engaging in negative conduct such as the 10 non-virtues, to have upheld, the kind of pure conduct of the 10 virtues, to have practiced the 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas, continuously, with the objective to bring benefit to others, to help and benefit sentient beings, and to have made aspiration prayers, to actually have made countless aspirations to bring about the immeasurable benefit of sentient beings and so forth. So these are all examples of the virtuous causes that are necessary to have developed or to have created in order to be born as a human being, to achieve a precious human rebirth with all of the leisures and endowments.
That in Georgia, that Melu, that and the Contua Night, what that in the lecture, sound the what it, ten George Melu, Zarching Borwa. Till that Zarching body, who you but you want to be your money, when I'm attending to Huana, you go to Marco. Dartoviake, the Lachan was treaty you win at it, who treat the picture my divine at it, Maso Jipe Ben or other, Maso Jitana Jatanga Jamso say, I think go to Gumari, Yena Tandati, Dungi Jamso, Dungartana, Yorick Dungar Jamso. Some Yakota Vina, Maso Dungar say at the Peja Kaledoa, Dungi Yubandori, Kurandina, Juyona. Yang, đừng nghe gì vậy? Chứ mấy này yang đừng nghe gì vậy? Yang, ta đã biết chỉ phải ta vì này everything is okay, yang xem cái nó là satisfied rồi mà. Thế đấy, cái này chỉ event đó rồi, event đó phát ra được ta. Saya thu yang yêu à, na cha yang mẹ à, chỉ ta chỉ ya ta chỉ ta biết cái làm cái đó, mà rồi này không có rồi. 근데 요위나티 샘게 떠나 또 갈스나 다른 배 갈스라겠지 너바 마체와 땅원에 시티 강가 지구 용구로 다 지구 요게 까마 지구 하고 그러와 디네 하 마고와 디네 용구요래 그가 나이다 서랭 가서 능이요래 나야 능이요래 되네 지 숨지 샘게 이날이 달루이나 샘도 능이 나서 요러와 어디 능이디 타리아 다들 배 점선으로 오지 샤지. 이 점선들 봐 통고나 추직고로 쳐. 비행이 다 단단 가서도 능이나라 요리 되나요? 그 능이를 8월 배 대회 기사자 능이 가면 매번 줘야기. 딱 가서 쳐요. 오지 요리 쳐. 딱딱. 브로큰 많이 말와. 저도 배 펑셔닝 유저기 추직 요리. 저도 통톡으로. 뒤에는 다 저리야 배조 맞이나? 주의가 뭐 가서 요비나. 근데 가서 능이는 봐 통톡 말와. 어다 배트나 이게 좀 그러게 동아다야 대결물이 다치 뭔데라 제타니 콘티바나 이래 지 녀야 이나래 삼야 이나래 오미야 요가 맞이비나 근데 다른 게 배나 이런 것도 저희 양보지요. 이거나 저 되게 좀 많이 나. 맞아 팀 거를 나가 양조 팀 나가 하대야로. 팀도 지 다다 얘들 챙기요. 다 등장 가시 되는 것도 이 refugee 들이라 되네. 지금은 저택자라고 되네. 수비지는 배 양조나로 조기 열어와. 지금 가시 동이에요. 가시 그래요. 가시 현아요. 열팀 딱 들리는 어디 전화 오지라 하면 싸움지 마셔. 배 가시 가 그래라. 뭐네. 어다 전화 얘기 맞지. 팀이 전화 오지 한다. 열이 있어.
With this human form, in which all of the necessary attributes are present, so all that is needed is complete, then these circumstances have to be well utilized. So, for instance, if we want to become free, or get to the other side of the ocean, then we have to have like the tool of a boat. So we have that tool, we have the boat, but if we don't use the boat, then we won't ever, we'll just sort of stay stuck in the middle of the ocean. So, of course, the ocean, we don't really think of the ocean as being like a negative thing. So it's important to understand that the ocean is like a metaphor for suffering. It's actually an ocean of great suffering. And so samsara itself is, as long as we remain stuck in samsara, then we are never free from suffering. There are so many different ways in which we suffer as sentient beings. And even if the really direct and sort of, really coarse causes for suffering aren't present, even if we're not suffering from intense illness, and everything is seemingly okay, still the mind is not satisfied. The mind is not usually satisfied. And so we might have everything we need to eat. We might have plenty to eat, plenty to drink. We might be temporarily free of any sort of physical discomfort or illness. And in fact, that's really, for the most part, how it is in this country, in America. We really are in a pretty kind of, our circumstances are really pretty fortunate relative to the rest of the world. And yet still, when we don't, on a sort of inner mental level, when we don't get what we want, and then, when our desires, all of our desires are not fulfilled, then there is dissatisfaction, and there is discontent. And so also, it is important to recognize good circumstances when they're present. So if actually there is, things are actually okay, things are actually going pretty well, it's important to recognize them as such. But often that's not the case. Often, despite the fact that we've got it pretty good, we're still unhappy. We're still not satisfied. We're still sort of afflicted in this by some level of suffering. And then sometimes we do experience the direct, the unpleasant experience, such as becoming really sick, and then we really have a direct confrontation with a coarser level of suffering, and the body is not well, and often also then the mind is not well. So there are all of these different ways in which we experience, physical, the physical sensation of pain and suffering, as well as the mental sensation, mental and emotional sensation of pain and suffering. And so if we want to get free, if we want to become free from the ocean of suffering, then we have to rely on that boat. We have to rely on the boat to get us to the other shore. It is the boat of this body with the 18 leisures and endowments that can take us across the ocean of suffering to reach the shore of unchanging and stable happiness, or kind of ongoing contentment, a deeper unchanging happiness. And so we have to go to dry land, and in order to do that, we have to have like fully functioning boat, a boat that's not broken, that's fully functioning. But if we have that fully functioning boat that is not broken, and then we still don't use it, then it doesn't matter. We won't get to reap the fruition or really actually be able to accomplish what having that boat can actually accomplish. And so that is why it is said here that we, to really ceaselessly engage in the practice of study, contemplation, and meditation day and night is really putting to good use this precious human form, or this boat, so to speak. And if we don't use it, then we'll just, we'll get left behind sitting in the middle of the ocean. And so, if you think about it, there are some who living in oppressive countries, or for instance, there are the stories of refugees from Cuba, for instance, who swam, to America without any boat. They actually swam, all of these, this incredible distance through the ocean, to seek refuge, to seek asylum. And there are other examples similar to this. They didn't even have a sort of, like a poor quality boat. They didn't have any boat at all. They just swam. So imagine someone like that who is seeking refuge. If they actually get a hold of a good boat, what
yes. So this, like someone like, not only from Cuba, but there's some areas, many areas I heard this. So those people, how scary, how worried. Of course they can die. So the tremendous suffering. So then if that person, they get one boat, how happy, how useful. So same way, actually we have, perfect condition, the boat. So always, we have to appreciate to we have, precious human life.
That's ourselves.
What that thing do, Tindijeke go tenjor jumulute, Matutine, then Zachimbre, then that tea, Matutana, Tani Chonga Chin Lapsa, Peju Chi Maji Seate, Tangasute, Niensem Gomba Seate, Tendita, Jetangasuta, Chuchiliore, in a Chuchili, Zo Karsana, Zonduku, Zondula, Hardly. Zondu Seate, money because obstacle of the Chadiore. Jikambi Chawadoviala, obstacle. 담배 초도비아 밥스가리 딩디 인도다 존주디 직 템바탄 히 제시네 직 존주 잠로 존주 잠바 제발라 칸디 잠 거스나 제가 존주라 존하게라 도와오라 내가 가리지 리비나 디직 flexible 로지 고요 주치비나 직들지 도와노 into the work into the practice 딘디 지금 마치 이제 가려운 걸라나 지금 레카 레고와 강시라 hesitation 텔마가와 영나 레카하고 말고 존주 좀 당나 배 쳐봐요 존주 어떤가 지고 삼거리 배 푸싱 진도다 근데 지 당분 못做 내가 마가봐 참 레카도 야고 놓고 말고 뭐 담배 치우려고 있는 데네 거지 당분 거는 motivation 이 존주 잠발을 배 틀지 쪼와지 into like the I'm not sure exactly, but 차트도 되네 뭐 춥게도 추던도 되지 가나도 중독으로 와 하고서 어떤 이제 뭐니 into 지금 hesitation 매와 들라집에 자나 현어 전는 가면 매와도 오지 뭐다 된다 오지 근데 오기가 스토리케이션 yes.
So having a precious human body with the leisures and endowments present, then to make use of it, as it is necessary to make good use of it. What is meant by making good use of it is ceaselessly hearing, pondering, and meditating day and night. And so in order to really do this, then we have to have a diligence. So to really accomplish the Dharma, whether we accomplish the Dharma or not, is contingent upon having diligence. So we have to have diligence or perseverance. And so not having diligence becomes a great obstacle to accomplishing worldly endeavors as well as our Dharma practice. So we want to nurture diligence together with mindfulness and awareness. So the way in which diligence is nurtured is through maintaining the qualities of mindfulness and awareness. And diligence is defined as being, as delighting in virtue, actually taking pleasure in virtue, enjoying. So the diligence has a quality of enjoyment. It should have a quality of enjoyment. And so what that means is that whatever activity that we are applying diligence in, that we are also flexible in that work, that there's sort of a mind of openness and flexibility, and that we're bringing kind of an energy of enjoyment or enthusiasm into the work or into the practice. If to begin with there's resistance or hesitation, we don't really want to do it, then it becomes really difficult to have the fuel of diligence present. You sort of already started off on the kind of with a motivation that isn't skillful in this regard. And so then it's difficult to really do the activity well, whether it is an activity, a more mundane activity, or our Dharma practice. So it's really important to have a motivation of real enthusiasm and delight or enjoyment in what we are doing, kind of like a water bird or a duck or a water bird, I guess, of some sort, that is, without any hesitation, just kind of
no dangerous,
soars right into the water. They just kind of like charge into the water.
Yeah, they're all landing, just smooth into there, no hesitation. Also, of course, there are no dangers. So it looks like I'm not sure exactly, but looks like enjoy into the this seed. Probably the two like water birds, they see the lake or river, or then just kind of like more they're thinking just enjoy safe and like not any hesitation. So that is we are our daily life, so is the Dharma practice, and as well as the ordinary job. So whatever you work, you have to enjoy. So sometimes we do it, mind is kind of like strange, So even though maybe job is work not start, but this thinking difficult, But still, if not yet to start work, but the mind thinking this is difficult, So then this, of course, then maybe the work is become difficult. So I say sometimes, first, go into work, or maybe during the work, maybe there's something problems come up, sure, but so sometimes mind is like too fast. Even though I say, just this work is not start, but the mind is all this difficult. So same thing in like Dharma practice. Sort of like interesting too, this really true we can build up kind of routine or like remind to us all the time. Otherwise, just mind is kind of twist, twist means, okay, I want to practice. But the mind immediately something just different, or maybe hard, or this something kind of like first, even though like we have a good motivation first, but then this like second thoughts, like just different way.
Twist, he's saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So some of the mind is, I think every single person probably kind of really strange, So that is we can. So twist is obstacle. So we have to build up, So also diligent is whatever very important, do it and just present moment. You look there. So Dharma practice, sometimes I say always too far. Future thinking, okay, no need to think in future. Just go ahead, practice, that's it, everything's there. That's you need to focus. Or I said the regular job, okay, just that's work there. So this future, no need thinking future. And same thing, you're walking. If walking, really focus. Then maybe there's in the road, path is not smooth, there may be rocks. But we're not falling down because focus there. Just can walk smoothly. So every kind of, yes, of course, I say just maybe you have like plannings, that's good, you can, but maybe actual practice is what are you doing moment to moment. Very important, Dharma practice or just ordinary job. So you have to focus there. So if you have that, then you will Dharma practice successful. You will work is successful. So basically,
your
kind
Dharma
of protect.
Practice will be successful. Your work will be successful.
So there you have really protection. Otherwise, so no protection means somebody's, destroy, but the inner state, no protection. So I said beginning, you hesitation or maybe worry, you don't have that. So then this very close you get obstacle. May you come obstacle. So the very important is, whatever you do, just I say again, just moment what you're doing, focus that one. Dharma practice, your worldly things, your study, that's it. So the first moment, okay, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you're successful. And then next 20 minutes, you will successful. Your next 24 minutes successful, maybe next couple hours you're successful. While you're beginning, first minute I don't like this or I don't want that. Then maybe next 5 minutes worse. You start, then maybe 20 minutes, maybe worse, and then maybe 2 hours. Then you have to maybe give up. So that is, I think, really is the motivation. But be happy, whatever you're doing, Dharma practice, like into, okay, there's also whatever ordinary job or Dharma practice, not thinking negative things, So you have to do something, you want to do something, then you don't thinking negative side or negative, right? So that what the thing do then tindi jeke zundu yuvina then matsuta tobayang nyen tugurila then sam tuguri one tuguris.
So in this way, if we have the diligence, then we become really capable. We become very capable of hearing or study and contemplating and meditating.
Tene ta karsen ni dang sen to yewa me bala sung ta jetang ma ta ji sam lu den do tene na ko ni ni ma ni ga ya tene chu chi gi yor la ya sen ya tene ji ko sen ki yi ko di bi na tene ji ma la ko se la ju la so ba tene ko mya yor es.
So actually, so it says in the English, or at least the version that I'm using here, says ceaselessly hearing, pondering, and meditating day and night. But actually, the word in Tibetan is sort of without distinguishing or separating, without distinguishing between day and night, without separating day from night. And so there's actually sort of some meaning in this word of not where day and night actually become indivisible. And so this also, as one really practices or deepens one's practice on the path, then there are the higher practices such as clear light, luminosity, and illusory body, and dream yoga, and so forth. And so those, for instance, instead of having ordinary sleep at night, then one is also continuing one's practice or meditation throughout the duration of the night. And so actually a practice becomes uninterrupted throughout the day and night without distinguishing between day and night. So that's how those who are in long retreats practice.
However, so even though we are, so how we practice, as much as possible, we daytime practice. So there are also how we nighttime practice. So also Dharma practice is everything's depending is our motivation. So like for example, if you before go to sleeping, like okay, something like benefit to other beings, or maybe a couple of recitations, or whatever you practice, even though not long, okay, no need set up, okay, your position or go to shower, no need that, just merely, it's just
merely.
All right, so just a couple of mantras, you then fall asleep. So the whole night is you become like practice. And sometimes too, maybe you midnight, whatever you wake up, and then you're thinking about Dharma, or you're thinking about mantra. So that is the whole night your practice. So instead of sometimes they become worried, so I just wake up midnight, how we get sleeping, so too early. So that is not Dharma practice. But instead, you see a couple of mantras, maybe easy to fall asleep. So that way is getanteri. Tesonroa. Getambe siyajite. Ko sambe samba kandijik. Kendu. Harngatsuji physically getanda. De chuchia yorwa ina kendu tene. Tenijek sambe kichesonroji yubina. Tene chuti karsina masola. Nipa chimbo legor. Tina ane yanko lakwati tesonroa. Getangatuji ma nyebene kaula tene. Ni kobe kaulate네 지 계획 셈트리오나 메파 침보레 스무도와 고체니 가세코비나 테가나 데르요와 고 디스트럭션 요마레 고소 디스트럭션 다 니카도나 다 단단가 공자라나데니 계지 자그레데니 나서 메키체 통그레데니 지타 나베지 고그레 코치페 디스트럭션 농보 요레 고 셈트리 아카보라와 티엔디 지 많이 몰라 꿀로 약보 유나 생생간을 배 개와 약보 좀 좋도 그래서 개와 약보세요 조 샘들 하자 하도 그래서 어떻게 나 네거티브 사이드 들어와 네거티브 사이드 배 공로 나오고 근데 이게 마음이 코스모이나 그 대가 나 이거 박자지 그냥 하고 그래서 이게 박자지.
So really, when it is said that, when it really comes down to it, whether something is rendered as virtue or non-virtue, it really all comes down to the intention. So it really depends upon one's intent or one's state of mind. And so if regardless of what the body is doing physically, if we are engaging in Dharma activities, but our mind is doing something else, then it doesn't really actually become such a strong, virtuous sort of Dharma karma of Dharma activity. But on the other hand, so whatever it is the mind that directs the outcome of the activities of body and speech. And so therefore, if we're going to sleep, and if we really sort of enter into a mind state that's really pure, if we have pure intentions, or our mind is really absorbed in Dharma as we fall asleep, then that entire period of sleep actually becomes an accumulation of virtue, because the power of the virtuous mind is so great. So even as you fall into sleep, that virtuous mind state is not destroyed, even throughout the ignorance of sleep. On the other hand, when we're kind of just in an ordinary pattern of distraction, we're hearing something is that whatever is that's being said, or we're seeing forms with our eyes and hearing sounds with our ears and so forth, and we're just kind of in a swirling state of distraction as we go to sleep, without really directing our mind in a sort of specific, in an intentional way to establish purity, then it becomes sort of, that entire period of sleep becomes sort of a lost opportunity for the accumulation of virtue. So really, if we create kind of a mind state, like a pure and virtuous mind state as we fall into sleep, then we receive the benefit of having that whole duration of our sleep become an accumulation of virtue.
오다 대가 나긴 가서다 쌤네 대치 세야지 요러와 나서 대치 노고요래 이나요 삼ling 가서 대치 도고요 말와 걔는 가서 대치 도야라 개체 모르 맞아 가서 너바 개체 뭐 너베게 대치 도고 말와 대 개체 모르스.
So it is the wholesome causes of virtue that accomplish happiness and joy. And so it isn't our desires that accomplish happiness and joy. And so if we wish for happiness and joy, then it is really important that we understand the causes. It isn't necessarily going to come to us just because we want it to.
So that they see the kind of go there, Tangila, moment to moment. And Tadanda Wina. 그 루인들 따는 단다야 되는 지보유나 단다 지보래 somebody 리포 단다 티스 초바 대와 로 지금 루일레 티스 대보유나래 제가 나지 지 컨디션 유스 지보래 sambo레스 기능 가서 뭐 제기요 말 어떤가 뭐 바기 그래 너무 바나게 다 텐데서 단다디 있고 유스 제기요 말다 이 뭐 바나서 그래 뭐 바시서 그래 와 텐데서 너 단디네 단다 opportunity 된 거서 량도 뒤에다 뭐니 지나 뭐가 같이 하나죠. 이는요 단다 opportunity 된 량. Not losing opportunity. 단다 강하게 와야 돼 그래도.
So actually,
this build up happy.
So actually, this is something that is established on a moment-to-moment basis, because the reality of the fact is, in the present moment, for instance, if our body is well, if we're not really experiencing any kind of overt physical discomfort, and if we're generally in, things are pretty okay, like our present sensations are not any sensations that are particularly oppressive, with regard to causing a state of suffering. Then if the conditions are generally okay, it's important to notice them as such, and to actually make use of this present moment in which we are experiencing generally favorable or pleasurable phenomena. But actually we don't do that. We are always kind of a few steps ahead, kind of anticipating what will come in the future. And usually we're making negative predictions. So we're thinking, oh, in the future things, something might go wrong. In the future I might get sick. In the future I'm going to get old. In the future I'm going to die. And that is all true. But that anticipation or hope or expectation with regard to the future causes us to miss the opportunity that we presently have at hand in this very moment. And so instead we're thinking, oh, in the future, this might happen or that might happen, or I want this to happen and I want that to happen. And so we're completely losing the opportunity of the present moment, which actually is an opportunity to build up happiness. Because the more that we train ourselves to be content with the present moment, actually experiencing the present moment, then we create a sort of condition or propensity for ongoing states of happiness or contentment.
죄송으로 그냥 가서 게 그냥 꼭 마동네 야 뇌야 요가 돼야 되네 배sam지 메차버려 송으로 그냥 가서 남나치나 되네 매일 걸어와 쉬어 말와.
So actually they say, even the mere function of taking a breath, inhaling, and then having an exhalation followed by the inhale, and then an inhalation followed by the exhale, is extraordinary. It's a miracle, really. And when we are alive to this miracle of simply breathing, simply existing, simply being.
Yeah, we not die. So same way. So we can like look at the positive side. Okay, we can walk now. That's a miracle, So we have the food in the table, eat. Someone eat leg. That's a miracle. We have both hands, So this we can walking. So if not opportunity, we not appreciate, I can walk, I can work. But this is not really permanent. Maybe future, maybe one day, maybe can walk, There's no worry. But right now we can't walk, we not appreciate. Then maybe one day, maybe we cannot walk. So there much double suffering. So I said this really is just moment to moment build. So we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of miracles, We have a lot of specials, we're talking about precious human life. And not only that, I said just if you can take opportunities the many ways, I say just I can walk, it's a miracle. I can functioning 2 hands, that's a miracle, Like compared to the other sentient beings, they don't have animals, those kind of functioning. So we precious human life maintenance can do. So these we can And also we realize that, have to have realized, okay, I can this is really precious. This is a really good opportunity. So every moment we have to build up good things, all the positive things. And moment to moment you take, I said, a small thing, like, people not pay attention. Oh, I walk is normal. Yeah, can be normal, but not permanent, you know. So we think, oh, I have like nice food every day. You think about this normal, can be normal, but it can be not normal. You know, one day maybe some person maybe they know enough food, but so
we
really,
take it for granted.
Granted, it really is, you know, the Dharma practice. So that's the real Dharma practice. So whatever you do, whatever you moment to moment appreciate. So that also the karma imprint you can build, you know, and more happier. If you build, right now we are functioning, everything, we build happy, and then one day, I say, maybe we can, who knows this, maybe we cannot walk, we cannot move the hands, you know. But if you really strong enough, you build, you understand, then maybe even though one day, maybe you cannot walk, you maybe not function in your hand, but still you be happy. Or maybe you're very sick, but still you be happy. Or maybe you're dying, you still be happy. So in order to get there, we just moment to moment have to build. That thing, related to precious human lives,
So all of this is related to the point that is being made here, which is recognizing or making use of this precious human life.
So the precious human life, moment to moment,
So in conclusion, to utilize this precious human life in such a way that we are living moment to moment in a state of ongoing practice, that we're bringing in our practice moment to moment, then it becomes the condition for actually becoming free of samsara, for journeying across the great ocean of suffering, or arriving at the other shore of freedom or liberation and happiness. And so, Anthony.
That's it. Okay, so that's it. So thank you. So now the dedication.
So we'll recite the Te Jua Shu Gobyu Samarua. So we'll recite the dedication then on page 24 of the prayer book. By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings and samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, and contemplation and meditation until the end of samsara.
Okay. So,
you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, goodbye, have a good day. Thank you. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.